Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about, guess what? Politics. And I don't even call it politics anymore because to me, that's not what it's about. It's about right and wrong. I met my guest today through the march that we did in the South Bay where I live. I live in Manhattan Beach. And we did a march. We've done multiple, and I've talked about it on the podcast. For my listeners, I know lately I have been super, I've become quite the mini activist, if you will. I think maybe, Bob, you can tell me that I'm going into that direction. But this is just too important to me to not talk about it on the podcast. Technically, I fall under the mental health podcast category. But this is about mental health. And when I talk to Bob today, we're gonna talk a little bit about your story and why you got into what you're doing. And I'm just honored to have you here. But let me introduce you first. Robert Simon, aka Bob, because he told me I could call him Bob, is a award-winning trial lawyer, a civil rights advocate. He has his own podcast called Bourbon of Proof. He is the co-founder of the Justice Team Network. I'm leaving tons of stuff out because I can never do a proper intro, and I've been doing this almost 6 years. What did I leave out, Bob?
I mean, I do a lot of things, whatever. I mean,
I hope you enjoy bourbon if you have a podcast called.
when you drink it almost for a living, as I do, I certainly do. And I
Well,
do
you
drink.
need to meet my husband because he
Oh.
enjoys bourbon as well.
Well, I have a whiskey room at my house, so my wife built me. I do drink bourbon every single day. I was at a Bourbon of Proof tour, my event last week in Louisville, and I did get stuck in an elevator at 3 a.m. on my way home, which was fun. But yeah, I'm a connoisseur of bourbon, and I think it opens up discussions and flavors, and we do a lot of political ones on the show. Last week, we actually had a guy that was in the Epstein files. He coordinated all the flights for Epstein unknowingly, and his name was in the files. And we had a guy that worked for the Secret Service, and he was detailed at Mar-a-Lago, and they had some stories to tell. It's like,
Okay, that's
oh,
I need to listen to that. And listeners, please follow and listen to the podcast. I was so impressed by you. I'm going to start with just giving you a few kudos, and then we'll get into your story. I was so impressed at the march that we did. I believe we did a first one in June, and then we did our big one a few months ago. And we also did a little candlelight vigil on the Manhattan Beach Pier where we live. And you are the most incredible speaker. And I was blown away by what you are doing and how you are representing, the people that are basically being taken away illegally, immigrants that are here. Many of them came here just for a better life, just like my great grandparents did. And they're treated like garbage. So that was really what our march was about. But I just wanted to give you the kudos for that. But I'm going to start with this. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you decided to get into the field that you're in.
look, I mean, I grew up working class Pittsburgh. My dad's a truck driver. I'm oldest of five, tied with my twin brother, right? So we came from those true, working class. You stick together in a community. You stick up to bullies. That's what we were taught. So I always wanted to be a trial lawyer and help people in the courtroom. My dad used to watch a lot of Perry Mason. Yeah, it's like the ultimate leveling playfield where you have jurors, people in the community to be able to make a decision. And it's far too often, certainly in politics, bureaucracies, is that nobody gets anything done, and not a lot of people have a say with it. And it's so empowering to give people a voice on a jury. I do a lot of civil trials where you don't need a unanimous jury, and 9 out of 12 in California, or sometimes 8 out of 8 in federal court, but to empower people to make a monumental decision. Like we've had ones, I've done a lot of sex abuse trials. I do a lot of those cases. We do a lot of ones against ICE to hold the government accountable, and to put that power in the hands of the community. They almost never get it wrong, and it's so refreshing to give them that empowerment and to right those wrongs. I truly believe that more change starts in the courtroom than anywhere else, and then the laws catch up. We had, I didn't try the case, but one of my friends did against Meta for social media addiction recently.
I just did an episode about that. That's out right now. Yeah.
awesome. Like
Yeah.
Mark Lanier and Raul Ravaputi tried that case, and we talk every day. Well, Raul and I did after trial. It was just fascinating. They definitely addict people to social media, and they don't want to, be held accountable. And now the laws are going to catch up to it. It's unfortunately, on our side of the Delta, sticking up for victims is we do not have the money nor the resources that the other side does. Like these big tech companies, it's outrageous how much money they have, and they can silence voices and they can influence politics, but the power that we have now with our cell phones and digital media and having influencers share important things, I think has been near and dear to my heart recently. And I've been putting out a lot more content personally. I've seen a movement. I've seen people that are just more empowered with getting information from people that they trust in their community or in their networks, rather than the traditional media that a lot of them, politicians, a lot of them are bought and paid for. I do a lot of follow the money posts, like who's really sponsoring this bill, who's really paying this politician, or who's really against this. And if you go back that trail, it usually tells you all you need to know.
Okay, so by the way, I grew up in Washington, D.C. I never, in Potomac, Maryland, actually. I never in my life thought that I would be so passionate. I don't even think I voted I'm embarrassed to admit this. I think I voted for the first time in maybe my late 20s. I love what you're doing because it's a lot like we live in LA now, that DC is full of the same kind of thing, but it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. People are full of it. I'm going to bring in, I asked for forgiveness of my listeners because I really was. And we had a conversation about how it was all about Eric Swalwell. And, I thought he was this great man. And he came on my podcast, and I was supposed to, by the way, go to his town hall in the South Bay. That was, thank God that didn't.
I could have told you these things. Just reach out.
I know we had a conversation briefly about it, and you said, I need to talk to you about that. And then we it fizzled. But I think you're so right about the independent journalism, independent media. I'm so passionate about, what happened to Don Lemon. I watched that live feed that morning. I just happened to pop in. He did nothing wrong. He went into a church. And for listeners, I have listeners in different countries. This is happening all over the world, where it's AI, we're being lied to, MAGA, all of this stuff. So I think your point of what you're doing, and how do you say his last name? Aaron Paris, like Don Lemon, all of these people that are using their platforms for good, because that's what we need right now. Obviously, CNN is all the major media companies are being bought, right?
Activists. Look, I don't know if you could see, but I have my tattoo right here. One of them is the Capitol building. You see that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I did my undergrad in DC and spent some time there. And I was I go back in the Hill here and there. I have a lot of friends that are there, and who's real and who's not. You can meet somebody. I could talk to people. If they're fake, do a little research on them. And there are a ton of knuckleheads that are elected officials in Congress and in your states. People that don't know anything. And it's crazy to see how people that they actually get there, and also how almost pathetic it is. People just fighting over nothing, and you get these bills that start with a single issue, and all of a sudden they're 240 pages of nothing but taking care of each other. It's nonsense. But the one thing that I'm very passionate about, is the social rights of individuals. It doesn't matter where you came from. We talked about all these things. I think it's disgusting to treat somebody other than how you want to be treated. I mean, just live by that golden rule, take care of folks, and don't treat them like garbage. But artificial intelligence and technology can absolutely ruin society. And I've been very vocal with state and federal politicians. You got to put guardrails in all of this. You have to shut down, like people cry about, this is, freedom of speech. We can do all these things. It is not freedom of speech to do these deep fakes, to trick people and to intentionally harm them. There is no freedom of speech to incite violence. And that is what's happening. And I recently been seeing all the Nick Shirley stuff, and I was like, guys, this is crazy. There's no bill to silence Nick Shirley. That bill thing is 2624, AB 2624, that Mia Bonta wrote, simply says that you cannot knowingly publish information that is false to knowingly hurt immigrants and then dox them by posting their information. That's all it says. That's what we want. You know, we need to have these type of protections. And with the artificial intelligence is I see so many deep fake images on there. And California did pass a law where you can hold accountable, but they have to have over 1 million subscribers. There's all these different rules. But for me, it's like, if you're putting something out there that you know is fake or is artificial intelligence, and you're not telling it that it's an AI image or that it's not real, I think you got to get in trouble for this stuff, because you can go through social media today. There's so much misinformation that is 100% deliberate to rile up a section of community and to get people pissed off and to hate others. That's it. That's not okay.
I agree. And I think that obviously there has to be guardrails. I also ask, I mean, I've talked to my listeners about this before. Whenever I post something, because I post a lot of political things in my stories now, I never thought I would be this person, but I think
Same.
I really didn't. It took me a while to be like, wait a second, this is wrong. What's happening? And I think I started, just to go backpedal a little bit, I started to become really passionate in 2016 when Trump got elected the first time. That's when I went, wait a second, this isn't normal. What's happening? And then like you love DC just like I did. That day to watch the Capitol be attacked like that, and you know, the officers and just all the stuff, and when people are posting AI images, you always, listeners, should check what you're posting. If it's something that you're like, that's no way that's true, or it seems you might be on one side and somebody's on the other side, always check the source. I usually always, 99% of the time, check the source. And if I'm wrong on something and somebody messages me, I take it right down.
Yeah, you say it was misinformation. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's all trust but verify. So I do the same thing. It doesn't sound right. Just take 10 seconds. You can go to Google and ask, is this true or not? And then they'll give you sources. You can click those articles and verify where's the source and where did it come from. And I mean, people they look at a meme or they look at the headline and be like, oh, that's it. This is it. That's the truth. No, it's not. But look, 2015 on, Trump was the master manipulator with digital media. They took all these things where just say it 5 times, even if it's not true, it'll become true. And then just put it as a headline and then pay people to say it and say it and say it. It's insanity. But here we are.
Well, let me ask you this too. And I know I'm going in all different directions, but welcome to my ADHD brain. You're a father of 3 little girls, right? I'm a mother and married and have two girls myself. What in God's name are we giving to our children? I mean, that is why I am so passionate about it, because when you're a woman, and now there's all this BS, like the rape sites, and it's just every day I wake up and I go, what is happening? How is this happening? You know?
And it's like, unless we have mass amounts of people sticking up. I do so many of these sex abuse cases we have a lot against. A lot against sex trafficking cases in hotels and motels, and you hear things you never thought would be true. And you can almost spot out the crooks and the creeps. But sometimes it's hard. Here's where I am with it. And it will take unfortunately, a lot of strong men to stand up and call it out. No more locker room talk. We don't treat people this way. You don't talk about it's not cool to share these images. This isn't funny. People, now we have had people like Andrew Tate, like Nick Fuentes, like all these right-wing influencers that put out content that they have to put women down, put them in their place. This is disgusting and needs to stop. And some people are, even guys I know that are like very well respected, like big, strong human beings, and they sometimes are afraid to say stuff because they're afraid of the backlash. But I've seen a lot more stand up now and say, this is crazy, guys. That's not masculinity. You can't be doing that to people. And I would never let my wife or daughters into an Uber by themselves. And they know that they wouldn't, right? My wife came to me after the story last week with the rape club, whatever those idiots were doing.
Yeah.
And she was just like, it's just so disheartening. She has to walk down the street and realize, is that person a creep? And this is where we are, because there've always been people like that, but now I feel like they feel a little empowered and they're entitled to do these things. And
100%.
yes,
100%. And you know where it started? And again,
yep.
I don't think I have any more MAGA listeners or Trump supporters. I would, and anyways, if
Don't
I
want-
do, guys, come on. I mean, come over to the other side. That's honestly what I say, because you're being lied to. I will say this. A lot of the adults are watching, sorry, somebody's knocking at my door. A lot of the 65 plus baby boomers older than that are addicted to Fox News. So in some ways, they're just being lied to on a daily basis, right? But what this all stems from is the Access Hollywood.
That
grab
1
them
minute.
by 1 minute.
That was it. That was it. Same thing.
And then
that happened. That should have been the end.
That should have been the end. But instead, it was almost forgiven. And growing up, I grew up a Republican in Washington, outside Washington, D.C. So the way that I grew up, it was very much a part of who you are. You grew up I grew up going to Congressional Country Club. Everybody knew each other's parents. Their parents knew each other's grandparents. I went to Georgetown Visitation. My boyfriends went to Georgetown Prep. Now we have 2 Supreme Court justices that went to Georgia. So it's all kind of like for that age group put into their brain. So it's almost like not their fault. But now it's to the point where I have a very close family member that still supports him. I never thought that person would be okay with that moment in time of Access Hollywood.
No, and it's the manipulation that happened. And look, they did a lot of geofencing manipulation on social media to invoke all of your deepest fears and use them against you. So it was, if you could see all the immigrant stuff, they made them look like dangerous criminals going to eat cats, and they're going to take your jobs, and people will get afraid and be like, oh my God, I believe that anything you say, that's what I agree. And this is why I think media's got to be held accountable. And I would we had ones where you sued Fox News and others for the false stories, and it went up, and they, Tucker Carlson cost them like $700 million, whatever the number is. Do more of that. I think lawyers should be filing all these defamation cases, all these knowingly false things, and put them out there and put their backs against the wall. If you want to say that all these things you're putting out there are true, then prove it, because it's all manipulation and lies. And I think that's where lawyers that are watching or listening, what you can be doing, there's a huge practice area for defamation. And there's no shortage of these things happening online and through media. Just do it. I cannot believe that Nick Shirley has not been sued yet by anyone of the Somalian descent in Minnesota for what he did, and the hate that was pushed onto them for these knowingly intentional things. It's sad. And like, they're targeting immigrants to get people afraid just to vote for a white guy. That's it. That's what it boils down to. Yeah, it's pathetic, it's sad, and it's just a bunch of that moment in time. And the other one, Citizens United, came, which said essentially you could have unlimited dark money, and through the corporate lens, ruined America. I cannot believe they said it was freedom of speech to be able to make donations to politicians. They're bought and paid for. I mean, before Swalwell dropped out, Uber gave him $2 million. Uber alone.
I know everyone was saying this to me, and I mean, that's the thing. It's almost like, and I know I'm interrupting, and I'm sorry about that, but it's almost like he came on my podcast, and I was so sold. I was sold because he's very charming, and hello, I should know better, but he was at the end of the podcast. My listeners might have listened to this episode. I pulled it from the library, so you can't listen to it anymore. But he said, wait a minute, you're a mental health podcaster. Let's talk about your mental health. And that it's kind of like that thing where you go, I've been seen. And it's the old thing about politicians selling snake oil. They're so charming that you just kind of go, when people were saying he was giving money to ICE, I didn't believe it. I should have done a better job of looking into stuff than I did. And I apologize to my listeners for that too.
Some of those things are also taken out of proportion, like giving money to ICE. Did you vote on a bill to be able to fund certain things at one point? It's not like you gave a check and gave him money.
No, I know, but he was part of a PAC I don't know what it was, but people kept posting and on Threads and I didn't listen and I didn't do enough
And this, I
research.
feel like people just go
Yeah.
back, and the things are always blown out of proportion. You can tell when the bots are online because they have the same talking points about all kind of other stuff. When they're talking down on the politician that they don't want you to vote for, it's the exact same language that they're using over and over again. It's very intentional. And I go back and see, well, why are they using that language? When California races, and I've been, we're fighting a lot of stuff here in California. It's a big election year, and it's occupied a lot of my personal time because it affects a lot of the victims and survivors that I represent. What's happening here in California, stuff with Uber to the governor's race, and I would do anything to keep a Republican out of the governor's office. Full stop. They will be terrible for California, terrible for immigrants, terrible for anybody that's not white. It's going to be bad.
Can I ask you about that? Because that's how I feel as well. We talked a little bit before and you said so I've been really active on socials for Becerra. I had no idea, by the way, listeners, I'm a huge, he has my vote. He had a ton to do with getting 988 funded. So for me personally, that's a huge part of my platform. And his experience in Congress, and just he's balanced the budget, I think 4 years in a row for the country, correct? I mean,
Yes,
correct me if any of this,
No,
if
you're
I'm wrong
right.
on
He
any
was
of
there.
this.
People forget we didn't have a $4 trillion deficit at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steyer was there. He was leadership in that team that did balance the budget. He was our attorney general here in California. He did hold Uber accountable then. He has stood up to
Donald Trump.
Yes. And I'm a Becerra fan. I know him personally from those days here. And I was talking to him this morning. There's a debate tonight because I had a few issues that we need to make sure for our consumer protection lobby that he's on our side. It was, we're hearing stories that you don't want to stop ICE, full stop. He's like, no, they'll be held accountable. We'll make sure there's laws that will hold them accountable personally. Get rid of qualified immunity. Okay, check. Right? Because people you hear all these things. They try to shoot you down for whatever. And it was like, do you want universal health care? And he's like, because people are saying he doesn't want single payer. Yes, he does. If you look at all the things he's been saying since he was a young person in Congress back in the day, that's been he's wanted that forever. And it's just, when you're in Congress in the United States, there's no one congressperson that can push a bill, right? It's much harder than you think. But if you're a governor of a state, different situation. A lot more power.
What about, because you know him personally, and there are questions. I think I even sent one in. I mean, living in California, which, by the way, I love my state. I've lived here 27 years of my life. It's my state. Anybody that comes after us, I go wackadoodle on them.
Yeah,
and
have you
it's
ever been
always,
here? Yeah,
I know. It's always like, I saw somebody post something like, this is San Francisco, and it was a picture not even from our country. I mean, people come after California all day. It's the best state. Do we have problems like every state does? Yes. I just went to the Pantages Theater to see Tina Turner, my idol, the other night. Not the real Tina Turner, but the show. And there's homeless all over the place. And, we have our issues. So do you know anything about the plans for cleaning up our homeless problem? Fentanyl, I think there is getting like that kind of stuff. Do you know anything about his plans with that?
I don't know specifically on the homeless question because I don't ask him that. I do know he's very big on mental health and having people have the ability to access to mental health.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing. And it's just about, for me as a Californian and in general, I would love to have we're such a surplus state, right? We should have the ability to fund all the social programs that we need and balance our budget, have a huge surplus to be able to do all of these social services, right? That should be what California is. We should be a state that is green and not energy dependent on other things. Like, we can get there, right? And this is where I was always between Becerra and Steyer for a long time. Steyer's saying all the right things. I don't know him personally. He's self-funding. I look at the ads attacking him, and the ads attacking him are like PG&E, right? PG&E has burned down a lot of my friends and family's homes down. And if they're buying ads to attack him, he's really for green. There's two other billionaire donors besides him that put in, and both of them run these super green packs. So that's refreshing. But he's never been a elected politician before, right? He's been an activist on the side. And for me, Becerra he grew up in Sacramento. He's held people accountable even when it was a tough job to do, when people told him he couldn't do it. So he's willing to stand up. The only knock is, well, hey, you've been doing this a long time, right? Because for me, it's not red or blue a lot anymore. It's new. I want people that are new, that are not stale, that are not endorsed and paid by all these corporate entities. And, one thing is, well, they gave the $29,000 max donation, or $39,000 max donation. First one was Chevron to Becerra. It's the first one. People have been knocking for that, but it's like, you got to start the campaign somewhere, and people say these things like, that's not really the knock that you think it is. You want
because he needs the money to be able to continue to do this. But I mean, again, he's not a billionaire. No. The thing that Steyer has that he doesn't have, like you said, is he's a career politician. And I love what you just said. It's not red or blue, it's new, because I feel the same way. Obviously, what's been happening, and we can't even get any bills passed, and it's just, Congress is a complete nightmare.
Congress is a nightmare, but I will tell you right now, in the state of California, our lobbying group to protect consumers, we pass 5 to 10 bills a year in California to protect consumers. It is much easier when you have a super blue majority. We've done a lot of consumer protection ones. We've done ones to hold our own industry accountable for fraudulent advertising by lawyers. I mean, there's a lot of pro-consumer bills we were able to pass through California. And it's like a state and another where you can do these things. It's not like the gridlock of Washington. If you get somebody in here that wants to do the right thing, it can get done in very quick order. And that's one thing that it's not, you go to a true purple state, they can't get anything pushed because unless they gerrymander like Texas or North Carolina, then they just rig the deck for their states.
Yeah. Do you think that, sorry to talk over you. Do you think that, okay, so if you're listening right now and you're because I know there's a lot of people that think, oh, I'm just not going to vote. Or maybe not a lot of people. I think people are pretty passionate about voting because of the shit show that's going on. But what would you say to a listener that is kind of going, I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I don't want I don't want Bianco or whatever. Hilton, is that the other guy? I can't even remember who it is.
Yeah, Hilton.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you're not voting for one of the top two Dems, whether it's Steyer, how you pronounce it, or Becerra, you're voting for Bianco or Hilton, full stop.
Yes, 100%.
The election for governor happens in November. This June election will decide the top two that go in the runoff. So you don't have to love the candidate you vote for now. It's to keep out those top two. I mean, Hilton is MAGA. He's sponsored by Trump. He's out there pushing all the Trump stuff. Bianco, to his credit, actually said that he wants to give amnesty to all the hardworking folks here in California, but shut down the border. And I was like, whoa, I mean, MAGA's going after him for saying that, which is crazy, right? We should have a pathway to citizenship for everybody here that's been contributing to society, paying taxes, and building up our communities. But you got to vote for one of those top two and do your research on them and feel who you're comfortable with to vote in this June election. Right now, I'm for Becerra. I haven't done my formal endorsement yet because I'm going to interview both of them as well as probably Katie Porter in the next couple of weeks to figure out where things lie. But I cannot stand when people, they vote for a third party candidate or they sit it out. And I was like, what happened to you that you got Donald Trump and now here we are. Well, I'm never voting for, the Democrats again because I didn't get my candidate in. It's like, well, is it the lesser of two evils? Yes, I hate saying that, but that's it. You can make, if you want to be progressive, you can make the party more progressive or elect the person to get in and hold them accountable to make them more progressive. That is happening. We're seeing that happen right now with elected officials that were in the middle that are moving left because people are holding them accountable. But don't think that sitting out or voting for a third party is going to do anything. It will not.
And also sitting out, and you have no right to complain. You have no, I'm sorry, during the election, I know people that didn't vote because of, whatever. They hated Trump and they hated Kamala. And then here we are. And so you have no right to complain about anything. This is especially for my female listeners, if you're living in California, or even, for whatever election it is in whatever state, look at what happened in Virginia yesterday. I'm not a huge believer in what happened with expanding the voting and in every state. But again, Trump started this in Texas, and we have to fight right now because our rights are being taken away.
Here's and I think it's silly too. But I use this analogy: if you're in sports and your team keeps losing to the other team because the other team is cheating, and then the ref says, "Well, that cheating is allowed," and then they appeal. And the commissioner says, no, that cheating is allowed. Now, your team that's been losing every time, are they going to do the same thing that they thought was cheating that is allowed or not? Or are you going to continue to keep losing? So, unfortunately, they not only did it in Texas, they did it in North Carolina, they did it in Florida. This isn't the only place they did it. So people feel like, oh, my God, the Dems are the only one doing it. Absolutely not. If you look at the actual, I think it's gained 9 red, 9 blue projected with the different, quote unquote, gerrymandering that's happened in the states. So, I don't know, look, I'm at this point where you play to win. No more of this. For too long, the Democratic Party's been, we have the right position. We take the moral high ground. We should higher ground. We should win. We should win. If you think about the things they stand for, they should win. But they've been playing not to lose for far too long. And, you mentioned growing up a Republican. There's no place for what the Republican Party stands for within the current Republican Party.
Yeah.
Small government? Nope. Right?
Yeah.
They ran on small government, keep the government out of our life. Right now you have the Republican Party being big government, spending more over into everything that we're doing, we're seeing. They want a police state. Like, that's not small government. They literally have Anthropic spying on us. Palantir, which is, to me, an evil company that is spying on us, that wants to drown us all out, to take everybody's jobs, to police us. That's not small government. That's the exact opposite. So it's very sad when you went to the hallmarks of the Republican Party do not even exist. And I know a lot of people that they switched to the Democratic Party or just a lot more independents. I think independents have a lot more strength than they think that they do, but they don't have a party candidate. But yeah, here we are, and it's every time we appoint these MAGA judges, you guys can't even believe what it does to the courtrooms. You will just lose your case walking in. They will just dismiss the case even though it's a viable case. In federal court, these people that are appointing are lifetime appointees. They have the power, and once you file in federal court, you're stuck with whoever you get. And if we know if we file and we get somebody bad, our case we just lose. We're going to try to appeal if we can, but if they control that circuit court and the Supreme Court on that issue, you're done. And it's terrible. It's terrible.
I just saw something. I was watching something about all these young judges that are now in the circuit courts, and they're election deniers. They asked them, just like yesterday, they asked what is it? Powell's replacement. If he thought the 2020 election was rigged. However, they said
they just asked, will you agree that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? They asked all those judges, and the same one, they same canned answer. Because those are independent. The judges are supposed to be independent. Department of Justice is supposed to be independent. Commerce sector is supposed to be independent. When they ask the Treasury Department, when they ask these things, they're supposed to look to see, are you independent and can you answer these questions? And it's very simple. Who won the election? Their canned answer was, the election was certified because the U.S. Constitution says it's supposed to be certified. No, that's not my question. Would you agree that Donald Trump lost? All those young judges, and one of the judges they're pushing through right now is the one that is representing Trump in getting the judgment thrown out for Jean Carroll. All these things, and then you're going to put him on a federal court? This is insanity. These people are just plans to do whatever Donald Trump wants. Whatever Donald Trump wants, not just the party, whatever he wants. And that's just, and I told people this back in 2016 when they said they were going to vote for Donald Trump. I said, I want to tell you something. The most important thing for me in that election was he's going to appoint at least one Supreme Court justice. And look what happened since then. And he's going to appoint all these people on the federal bench, and it'll take us 2 decades to get out from under that. And it happened. And
he's trying to get his face put on Mount Rushmore every day. I grew up in DC. I performed at the Kennedy Center when I was a kid. It's unreal what's happening. Okay, but I want to have positivity here, if it's possible, because I think it's really important. I say this all the time to my listeners because I talk a lot about mental health. We have, I know that I spiral. I've had to cut my news back. I talk a lot about being outside. I talk a lot about doing things like meditate, that all of that kind of stuff. We have to be positive. So what is some, I know you talk a lot about immigration and how people were suing in the courts and winning, and there's positive outlooks there. I would love to know your stance on ICE and specifically in California. I've seen people haven't become as vocal. I would love you to talk about that. What's going on with that?
So we are winning in big numbers in the courts. Every time we file these lawsuits, every time we're under penalty of perjury and you got to be sworn in, they lose every single time. Not only they lose, they back down. And then we've been amplifying those on social media to show them, look, these guys they're making up that their life was in danger when they shot someone, right? They just make it up. I was in front of Congress probably about a month ago with some of my clients that were shot at by ICE that were citizens, along with some others like Renee Good's brothers were there. And we're in this shadow hearing because only the Dems showed up. It was crazy to hear what happened to American citizens, their actual story, what happened, rather than the spin of the federal government. And we're winning in massive numbers in the courts. We're winning on areas of law. And I just tell everybody that when they lose hope, it's like, you continue to vote. If you see what's happening, all the votes are turning out. People are pissed. They get it. Just like the juries get it right. People are in the know. Just got to get to November. I know it seems like a long way away. It's only 6 months. I mean, less than 6 months. Shoot, right? We got to get there. So, I say keep the faith. And then if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of positive people that are sharing a lot more wins on social media. Yeah, you can go down the spiral and the doom scrolling and all that. But I'll tell you right now, by being so loud, by being active, by speaking out and sharing these stories and getting in front of the media, we've seen a lot less presence of ICE here in California than they initially were, right? We started to open up and get rid of qualified immunity. We have some bills in Congress that says that, if somebody's working for ICE, why should they have absolute immunity for things that they do? That's going to get clawed back. They did it in California as well. So we're seeing that momentum. We had the first in Minnesota. They charged criminally the first ICE officer, which most DAs should be doing. And I wish our Los Angeles DA Hochman would do something about that. If you saw a story, one of his own staff members were detained by ICE illegally, and he reported it, and they told him he made it up, and then he did nothing. And it's, that I have several clients I've reached out to him about that have been abused by ICE. They did nothing wrong. It's on video. Does nothing. These people should be charged criminally. So my hope is you apply pressure there. We have a trial coming up in about a month where the United States government is still trying to pursue charges of manslaughter attempt with a vehicle of one of our clients and who got shot in the back by ICE. And it'll be a very humiliating moment for the United States government. I can't believe they're pursuing these charges, but I can't wait to share everybody what happens with that. Look, I see a lot of positive momentum. You've seen a lot of people that were true MAGA believers that have now turned, and their eyes have been opened. It's like the scene from Lord of the Rings, wherever the king is under the spell and then he gets lifted and his eyes light up because the spell's coming off of them. And one thing I'll tell people is embrace them when they do that. Don't say, it's your fault. I told you. Just say, thank you so much. Like, what else? You have to help empower these people to also share their stories. But look, I've been very optimistic and inspired by stuff that I'm hearing from the inside, like my people up on the Hill, right? And the things that I'm seeing that were in secret 6 months ago that start to come out. It's very positive to see that it's coming true.
Do you think on the scale of national, do you think that the Republicans, because I know there's chatter within their own party that they're turning on him, on President Trump. What do you think is happening with that? Because you say you go on the Hill. Do you know anything about that?
So you got a lot of cockroaches up on the Hill, and they'll do anything to survive. Mm-hmm. And when you see a few of them start to say and do things that were true Trump Kool-Aid drinkers, that's when you know the cockroaches know what they're going to have to do to survive. And if I were them, I would immediately pick up J.D. Vance and say, we're getting rid of Trump. He's crazy. This has been crazy. We're going to change everything. That's your only hope. But they've dug themselves way too deep. But you see I love lame duck politicians like Tom Tillis in North Carolina,
Yeah.
just talking about Trump every day and all the crazy stuff that he's doing. So he's speaking the truth, man. Why can't we do this all the time? But if
Yeah. It's
I-
also because he's retiring.
that's it, he's
Right?
lame duck. He's done. He's retired.
Yeah.
So he doesn't
Yeah.
care. He
But
don't
but
care.
but what doesn't really add up to me is they could easily speak up at this point because there are like the Joe Rogans and the Tucker Carlson and the Meghan, whatever her name is, and Candace Owen, all of these people that are coming out vocally against him. I would think that they would start to want, because their seats are in jeopardy, all of them, Senate and Congress. So that's what doesn't really add up for me.
Well, you know, they have plans to try to say already the election's already been stolen, and
Well,
they're
he
gonna-
already did it today with Virginia. I saw him post something about he's going to try and sue. Okay, so
Ugh.
I could go on and on about these topics forever. One last subject I would love to touch on with you, because again, you're a father of 3 girls, and they're so cute, by the way. I want to ask you though, because you post sometimes on your social media, which is Planet Fun Bob. So follow Bob because he's great, and I love the things that you post. But you posted something about people coming after you in your messages. People sometimes come after me too. I just block them right away. How do you deal with that? I mean, are you kind of like, do you get scared?
I thrive off of stress and chaos. I love when these people come after it. I like to comment on them and make them look stupid, do a quick investigation. Too much of my time, whatever.
Yeah.
No, but it is, there has been times, I've done a lot of high profile cases where my wife is like, is it safe for us to be here right now? Or, should you be walking around in a Kevlar vest? These kinds of things. And, it's sad you have to think about that, but sometimes I do. When I recently, I have a hologram box. I know this sounds crazy, but I have a hologram box, and I've done.
What is I don't even know what that means.
I got to send you the story. It was all over the news.
Okay.
I did it last Labor Day, where I went to this huge, thousands and thousands of lawyers at a conference, and I was the keynote on technology and law, because I do a lot of tech stuff. And I had a hologram box there, and I came in as a hologram.
Oh,
I
a
was somewhere
hologram.
else.
Yeah.
I was somewhere
Okay.
else, and I popped in and did the whole I could see, interact, and talk to everybody. And why I wasn't there with my AI avatar was there answering questions. But the real is, if I ever, people always ask me to run for politics. I've never put my family through that. And I was like, but if I did, I just send my hologram box everywhere and just pop up. You could pop up 20 different places at once, be live and interact. It always be like Max Headstrom, right? Does that really exist? But it's also a safety thing, because being in large crowds, especially when I'm so vocal about stuff, people try to step and do stuff, but then they realize, oh fuck, this guy's not a small dude. He might actually do something to me, right? So it's
Yeah.
I don't know. You shouldn't have to think about these things, but you do.
I think your voice is so needed. It's so important because you're smart, and like we talked about a couple of minutes ago, I've been more active on Threads. I feel like I could work for the Becerra campaign because I keep posting stuff, because I think it's really important for women to be vocal right now, because our vote really, really matters. There's still a lot of women, even in our own town, sadly, that's, they're stay-at-home moms, their husbands work, they're influencing them, Fox News, that kind of stuff. And they're like, I'm just going to vote the way my husband, but do your research and use your voice and your
follow
platform.
the money. It's like we have these, there's so many propositions that are coming out in California in 2026. And
Yeah.
we had one coming out for consumer protection lobby, for rideshare companies to do real background checks, to fingerprint their drivers, to take real safety measures, because there have been sexual assaults every 8 minutes. Widely reported in the New York Times. They've been having thousands and thousands of lawsuits against them. They still refuse to do those safety measures. So we actually had file a proposition that'll be on the ballot that simply says, hey, if you're on the hook if your driver does this to somebody, and you got to take real background checks to make sure that you're not, because these drivers they share their logins. Why you don't have just a face they can, over fingerprint they can open it up, because they sometimes, some of my cases, where they sexually assault very badly of our clients, they're using the login for someone else. Why do we not have a rearward facing camera so this doesn't happen? And if they did any background check like a real one, this would have stopped. So we filed that. In response, instead of trying to do the right thing, Uber then files a proposition that'll be on the ballot that says that anybody in a car crash, any car crash, the victim gets 75% of the recovery, which sounds great. They put it as like limiting lawyers' fees. But out of the 25%, they put in there, out of 25%, you got to pay your lawyer all your medical bills in the past, all your medical bills in the future. And, oh, by the way, for your medical bills, you have to have a higher burden of proof. You have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that your medical bills are related to this crash. And all the doctors are like, what is happening? Because no one's going to get specialized care. No one's going to be afford a lawyer, a doctor, and Uber's just going to make more money. They actually put it into their bill. So what's interesting is whenever they set this initiative, you have to send it to the Attorney General's office to comment on it, to say we're not going to mislead people. And the Attorney General actually put in the headline that it'll limit access to lawyers and medical care. So they try to get away with it by slipping it in there. But if the consumers actually read it, it's like, oh my God, we're going to get screwed. You can't even, if you're in a car crash, like if you're hit by a drunk driver and the drunk driver doesn't have much insurance, Uber has already limited, they had $1 million worth of insurance for their drivers for uninsured motorists. They knocked that down to $60,000 starting this year. So now you only have $60,000 hit by a drunk driver. Oh, by the way, out of that, you're not going to be able to pay back any of your medical bills because now they have a limit on what you can pay. So everyone's just going to be, oh, we're just bankrupt. And the reason they're doing this is because they refuse, because there's so many cases against them. And this is my theory why they put $2 million to Swalwell, is because in the district court where all these cases against Uber for sexual assault are held are with a judge in Northern California, even though they're all the national cases. So I feel like they were trying to buy a politician to be able to get them out of these sex abuse cases because Governor Newsom has not allowed them to do that. They've been trying to do that by paying politicians other places. The only chance in California, since they need 50% or more of the vote for a proposition, they figure they can rather, and they're the only ones funding it, it's only Uber. They figure they can spend $200 to $300 million on a proposition to change the law in their favor because they couldn't get a politician to do it. So they tried to give $2 million to Swalwell. That didn't work out. So I wonder where that's going to go. I've been tracking to see because they want to put that money somewhere. They gave Katie Porter $150K. They gave Hilton $40K. And it's like, where's the rest of your money going to go, guys? Because I know what you really want to do here. So I'm watching that. And then the Roblox, I saw Roblox, the founder of Roblox, they have a big lawsuits against them because a lot of kids were getting very bad things happen to them on chats on Roblox.
I just literally my episode that I just recorded is all about this. So listeners, if you listen to, and I will tell you, because you have 3 daughters, there's an app called Moxies, and the founder just came on, and it's actually, she talks all about a safe digital footprint, because digital is not going anywhere. I'll tell you about it after we record.
I'm going to listen to that because
it's so important for kids. You know, what the damage that these companies have done to our brains. I'm addicted to my phone. I can't put it down. You know,
it's intentional. We know it's intentional.
Yeah.
But a kid's brain is not at the point where they can guard against that, even young adults. And we've seen massive more cases of depression. Children try to take their own lives because they start on Roblox, they go over to Discord, and they're trying to meet this man that they met in a chat, and it's terrible, these things that are happening. But the founder of Roblox, I saw gave, I think it was $1 million or $2 million to Mahan, or whoever, the other guy that's running for governor out of Silicon.
Yeah. He also has ads too, all of a sudden.
I was like, oh my God, I know what they're trying. It's like they'd rather put money over here rather than take these changes to protect friggin' kids and women or do the right thing. I don't understand why companies like Uber wouldn't be like, all right, guys, you know, we're right. Let's police our own organization. Let's do these safety measures that you want to do. We're going to allocate a victims fund. We're going to work together. And and then I look, and the CMO for Uber, Chief Marketing Officer, is on the board of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I did a post about this the other day, blew my mind. And I emailed the director of Mothers Against Drunk Driving yesterday. I have not heard back from her yet. But I was like, do you realize there's a huge conflict of interest because somebody at Uber is actively trying to hurt every single victim of a car crash? This is what their mission is, so that they make more money through tort reform. Do you know this? I haven't gotten a response yet. But I just cannot stand the incestuous nature of all of these things. It's
well, my question on that is, because I have a 16-year-old daughter who, you know, I don't want her getting, I'm friends with, and I did an episode with Jennifer Levy Braun Levy. We live in Manhattan Beach. And for my listeners, you can listen to that episode. I did it probably like 6 months ago. And he was hit and killed on Sepulveda, where we live. And there's been multiple. So it's almost like, what do we do? Because you want your kids to be able to go places. You think that Uber's a good way to go, but you also don't want them to get behind the wheel because they've been drinking or someone's drinking. And then there's Waymo coming in, but then you hear about Waymo like driving over curbs and, so it's like, I could talk about this for hours, just
Look,
this topic alone.
I almost
Yeah.
want just like a dad shuttle here in Manhattan Beach.
You should. Remember when we had, sorry to get off topic here, but remember when we had the golf carts a few years ago and they would park them at Metlocks? What happened to that? That
We
was
should
such a
be
good
doing-
idea.
I mean,
Anyway.
I mean, it's going to become another community things, but it's wild. So if you look at it, Uber
Mm-hmm.
actually has something I think called Uber Teen. And if you look, they actually, for Uber Teen, they actually fingerprint and do higher background checks for those drivers. And I looked at this, I saw this the other day, and was like, so they know they can do this to make it safe for this product over here. The reason they don't do it is because it costs them like $100, $150 per pull if you fingerprint them and do the right thing. And they did the math. It's just way too expensive for them, which sounds insane that they took that, profits over safety approach, which they did. But it's like, what's the really good choice here? I think like there's a lot of independent, like we use one company called Law Firm Rides, and like their drivers are all verified, where they're going to be. But it's like, it sucks you have to do that to get kids from A to Z. I think 2 or 3 years from now, you will have the Waymos of the world have the technology to be able to do these things. You see the same videos I do, and I know a lot of things like the Waymos. I mean, Uber was actually involved in the first pedestrian death way back in the day, but like these autonomous vehicles are not there yet, and they're going to try to roll out massive taxis end of this year in California. Uber actually partnered with Waymo, and the video is wild that they were competitors at some point, but they decided they want to take the driver's jobs too. And by the way, like if you get hit with a Waymo, even though there's no person in the car, and you want to sue them for product liability, Uber's bill will protect them as well. So if you become a quadriplegic from a Waymo, you're not going to be able to afford medical care or a lawyer, which is wild.
So basically, there's no hope. Is what I'm gonna have to go take out a tricycle. No, I'm kidding.
Here's my hope is that
Yeah.
people are informed. Voters
Yeah.
are informed. They will demand safety. That we see these influencers, like I saw a lot more traction lately on this issue alone. People that are micro influencers, and I could see the numbers pop. That like people, oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea there were sexual assaults every 8 minutes. I had no idea that they were 3 verdicts in a row that they were held accountable. I had no idea that they knew these things. Like, we just need to get the messaging out there. And unfortunately, it's David versus Goliath, where they're going to spend $400 million on a proposition, and it's like, well, what are we going to do? We have to use social media and network effect to have a chance.
And using your voices, and hopefully, if you're listening this podcast and talking about it and talking to your kids about it, I know I do not ever get into an Uber without my husband or a group of us, or me personally, I don't let my daughter go Uber either. I mean, she's 16. So
Well, I'll tell you this
go ahead.
crazy stat.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of the sex trafficking cases,
Yeah.
if the children that are trafficked, if they have an active dad in the relationship, there's a 99.9% chance that child will never be abducted or trafficked. Wild statistic. But what happens is they prey on children that do not have a father figure or somebody active in their life to get them. It's an astonishing stat. That's why a lot of things happen in foster care homes. A lot of stuff starts there because they have no protection. They have when I saw those stats and all the stuff that we deal with, like that was staggering to me. And I tell all my dad friends that have kids, like, you have to be so active in your child's life. Just be present, be around, pick them up from school, do everything that you can, because those little things, believe it or not, there's creeps probably watching and seeing which kid is not getting picked up by mom or dad every day, and maybe there's a reason why, and then they follow them home. They're like, oh, this is an easy target. This happens, and it sucks, but it's true.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've talked about so many things today, and
Sorry to go on the very dark end of there.
No. I think that knowledge is power. I mean, it really is. And I am my husband and I'm the biggest helicopter parent on the planet. So my kids have it. I apologize to them, but I always say my job is to keep you alive. And then when you're old enough, you can go do whatever you want to do. But now with social media and all this stuff out there, we have to be so careful. Okay. In closing, this is one more question, and then we're going to close. The Epstein files, because we started with that. What are your thoughts on the Epstein files and where they are going right now?
Well, they obviously brought in a new attorney general to replace Bondi that's going to do even more in his power to deep six the Epstein files.
Yeah.
And the reason is every single one of these people that are compromised just have so much money and power that they don't want to lose it. And these people are going to do everything they can to protect them. I think this is why it goes to the red or blue or new thing. I think every new person that's going to come in there is going to demand accountability with the Epstein files, demand investigations. And it's going to take a lot of, foreign countries that are going to be able to have the ability to do when they're doing it, but also the states, all these attorney generals, all these district attorneys, they should be doing everything they can as well. You saw at the Zorro Ranch, New Mexico, like they're actually going through to dig up that property that the Epstein family sold. They're going to go and see what's there. I think that it'll be one of the most massive corruption scandals that come out of this, with just this Pizzagate thing that everybody thought was crazy, including me. It's like, oh my God, they were right about a lot of stuff. There is this crazy ring of folks that just do very bad things to women and children, and they think they're above the law. They live on a different plane of existence, and they all got to be taken down. And I don't care who they are. I don't care what political spectrum they are.
Oh, I don't care what side of I mean, these poor victims. I was watching something last night. They deserve better. They do, period. And if you are a victim of any kind of assault, you deserve better. So, okay, my last question, I promise you. What is the thing that you're most proud about? Why? Because you do this for a reason. What is the reason that you do it? What are you most proud besides being a parent? Probably.
Okay, besides being a parent, because I'm gonna say obviously like raising my kids
and a husband. But like, what is the reason what gets you up every morning to do what you do?
I see change happen, and like, I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, grew up in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's more liberal, but outside very conservative, right? It's Southwest Pennsylvania. Somebody reached out to me on DM just to thank me and said, "Hey, I watch all your content." I shared it with one of this person was in the armed forces. He's like, "I'm with you," and I shared a lot of this to my friend that's with DHS. He's an ICE officer. Because of the content you've been putting out there, he asked a lot of questions. And he resigned, and a lot of his friends resigned. And it was because of your content that they said, what we're doing is not right. We can stand up for ourselves. We can talk about it. And they did. And now I truly see some of these, people that are working for the Department of Justice that I know that are or have resigned because they can't stand this. They know it's wrong. And people have thanked me for just allowing them. They're saying, we see it, we hear it, we see you say it, and we believe it too. And we see all the comments that we can't do this anymore, and you've empowered us to say that we don't have to put up with this shit. So that's been very empowering lately. And then seeing the actual, going up into Congress and testifying with our clients a month or two ago was just so empowering to see, look, we got these politicians at the table. We draft legislation, show to them this is how things got to change, and to see that it does. Like, it has a chance. And once Trump gets out of office, because he'll veto anything, we will have an end to the qualified immunity so that ICE doesn't run rampant on our streets to victimize and humiliate all of these people that are here, right? That will happen. We will have accountability with everybody in the Epstein files. That will happen. We'll see change first, I think, truly in the courtrooms, because these things happen faster, and then legislation is going to catch up. But I just want to stress everybody, your local and state elections are just as important, because that change can happen much faster. Vote in California. I just encourage everybody to vote for whoever the top two. I tell you who my one is, and I'll tell you publicly when I get there, but the top two that are polling the highest, because we cannot let MAGA take over California and ruin it and allow Donald Trump to come in here carte blanche with ICE to act as their imperial army, because that's what will happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much. And what you said in the beginning about using your voice to talk to other men right now is so important. So saying, locker room chat. All of this stuff is wrong. The Charlie Kirk stuff with men thinking, oh, women just need to stay home and work for me, and just all the crazy stuff that's going on right now. It's because people have become empowered. Men have become empowered to talk that way, and it's people like you, people like my husband. There's a lot of great men out there, and so I hate it sometimes when men like you, there's a lot of really good men out there, but we need the good men right now to make the men that maybe feel like they have to say certain things to be accepted, to speak up, so you don't normalize this bullshit that's going on right now. So thank you for that. It's huge. In closing, I'm going to say again, I'm voting for Becerra. So I'll try not to be so political the next episode, but you might, listeners, hear me talk a lot about this because I'm so passionate about what we need to do to get our country back. And I believe to end the podcast, I think the pendulum will swing the other way. And again, the bad guys never win. Watch any movie, the bad guys never win. In closing, thank you, Bob, so much for coming on. You matter. Your story matters. Keep going.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.